Sweet Taste of Cake by The Descendant. Chapter 5. The Deal. Being quarry means that you have been pursued, that they have pounced on your moments of weakness and used it to rip away parts of you. You have determined never to show weakness again. Being quarry means that you started a shipping company. It means that some pony took out an option on your lease of an airship from the bank. When the bank failed, you lost everything. Being quarry means moving on, trying everything, only to have everything stolen from you in backroom deals and leveraged options and games played with imaginary money on stock charts. Being quarry means that you landed in Ponyville. There something happened that never happened to you before. You made a friend. Clyde watched her skip along, watching happily as Pinkamena made her little game of flipping rocks. She sang to herself as she made him rest once more on the good earth, letting him grab at these last few rays of light that the sovereign sun draped over them. The rocks filled with magic, pulling it up from the very earth and drawing it from the sun. It would be a good crop this year, but it was his child, not his harvest, that sat on the forefront of his mind. Geoculture was not her world, and he knew it. As he too began scouring the landscape, he looked at all of his beautiful daughters. Clyde saw how they communed with the land as good earth ponies should, but he knew that their hearts were not in it. This was not their world, and someday they would need to leave. With the exception of maybe Maud, who's probably going to be staying there for quite a while, Pinky would have to leave first. This life could not keep her long, and no matter how many parties he could set to throw, they would not be able to attain her life marks that life had planned for her. Clyde sighed, kicked at one of the myriad of rocks that littered the ground along the long acres of his farm. Her humming stopped. Clyde lifted himself, panned his head across the panorama of fields. His eyes settled on Pinky once more, and at first he was confused. Suddenly he saw his daughter light up, saw the wonderful energy stirred within her. He could not help but smile as her face went wide with a vast smile as she began to hop around in happiness. Papa! Papa! Sorry? Just see what I found! I found a neat little thing. He smiled as he began to trot the soft earth that was wet with the chilly dew of autumn. As he did, he realized that a frost could not be far away. He, as much as any other farmer, agricultural or geocultural, would soon have to harvest the fruits of their labor or risk having it locked deep within the frozen earth. Inky, Blinky, and Maud trotted up to him. At first, the pair followed him, carrying around him caused curiosity, but soon they were pelting around as Pinky began to laugh and smiles lifted across her face. Upon raising his daughters, he saw something on Pinky's foreleg. Inside an instant, he relaxed and smiled, realized that it was nothing more than the harbingers of the autumn now unfolding. "Just a woolly bear caterpillar there, on a fat, fair little fellow at that. See the bands on his back?" he said, pointing out the two deep shades at either ends of the tiny creatures. "Even the least of the creatures in Equestria know how the Pegasites will set their winter. Since it's the magic in all things that live beneath the sun of Celestia." "Even us? Earth ponies?" called the girls in time. Pinky giggled as the creature crawled up her foreleg to her shoulder, its bristles tickling her. "Yeah, us too," he said, watching the sisters pass it gently between them, each of his darling daughters giving small giggles as it crawled past their shoulders, their withers, over their necks, and down their backs. "Come now, let's find a space of comfort and be back to our work," he said as he turned and set his sights on the tree line beyond the farm. As they went, the girls still passed the caterpillar between them, watching it with interest. Suddenly a horrible realization shot through Clyde. Realization that his daughters had never taken the time to do something as simple as lift a caterpillar, commune and sense with the nature of this world. His eyes went once more to Pinky as they reached the trees. As she pranced up and down, she selected a fine tall ash tree, and with that, Inky lifted the caterpillar to the leaves. As the leaves had already been tinged with the autumn shades, the caterpillar soon lost among them. With sad sounds, the ponies turned back to the fields. And now, Maud being sad. Oh. As he saw Pinky bounce along, he heard her try to compose a song. As she did, she stumbled through the verses. To his consternation, she used the word orange to attempt to describe the leaves of the coming autumn, and with that, her rhyming shut down, and his filly tripped through the fields of rock. She was growing into her mark so quickly, he realized. Her perceptions were expanding in so many ways, yet he did not know how to help her. Even an event such as simple as finding a caterpillar had swirled around her, calling her love of surprise and new things, and had brought him all this new experience in a simple moment of joy, and he still did not know what to do for her. He closed his eyes and made a small invoke. Do not worry. Is there a divine voice on the breeze that flowed out of the woods? It moves. It comes in time. Though he could not hear it, the laughter of his daughters had already filled his ears. As Clyde watched them run and call to one another, his features were serene. It breathed easier in calm old air. The main showcase room of Sugar Cube Corner had gone quiet, the customers and their holiday tidings having departed as the mid-morning rush dissipated. Cupcake looked out of the windows and saw that the Pegasi were drifting down a few flakes, just as scheduled. They were decorating the city, giving Ponyville that last little dusting that would make Heartwarming Eve that much more picturesque. A family went by the window, the foals filled with excitement. Cupcake went to the window. Certain unanswered influx went through her as she watched the foals walking beneath her parents' legs. She listened as they made cries of anticipation that seeped to the bakery. She placed her hoof to her body. A certain sadness lingered there. Frost was growing at the corners of the window, and as she watched, it seemed as though the crystals themselves were expanding before her eyes. Cupcake heard Carrot's voice, heard him humming a holiday tune. It was the same one that she had begun as they had worked together, and soon their thoughts turned to rejoining him. She trotted back to the kitchen. As she looked up, she saw him working on a few other small details as the gingerbread came closer and closer to being ready. She watched as Carrot tentatively added the small pieces. She smiled as he deliberated upon where to place the last few structural elements, the shutters, the chimney, and the trim. As he rested his head in his hoof, he sighed. Carrot looked up to her as the big white waft of frosting still sat upon his nose. He gave a smile of resignation. He was calling on her again, calling her to make a decision, just as he had hoped she would make long ago. With soft toes, she began to cross the table. As she did, she felt herself brush up against something. She looked down and saw a bag. Opening it, she gave a small gasp as a silver package, expertly tied with fine ribbons and a large bow, revealed itself. She looked up to him and held it in her hoof. He too stared her gasp, realizing what they had just done, the mistake that they had made.
And so, I found a company that was willing to make you a loan offer on what I consider fair terms,
said the realtor. Carrot did his best to listen, tried to comprehend the talk of money and interest rates. However, terms did not escape him. All Carrot knew was that he was sick of Cupcake and himself being apart. Ivory had left just as summer was winding down. Already her presence was keenly missed. Already the toll on Cupcake was obvious. He opened his bakery just in time to bid to make the snacks from school district, the special treats that fueled the young minds through the morning of learning. To no one's surprise more than his own, he had won. The money was no fortune, but it certainly was something. It was proof that he could bake for a living. Cupcake was spending her time getting ready as well, that he knew. She seemed a little lost without Ivory near, and at those times when she came around to the shop, he tried to fulfill his promise to Ivory. Be everything he could for this mare, to try to give her his comfort. But more often than not, he found to his happy relief, she was very, very willing to accept his affections. But as time went on, he had realized that she had moved toward helping him at the shop. What should have been an amazing and happy revelation for him, instead filled him with worry. He did not want her to be his employee. He wanted her to be his lover, his friend. She had begun making plans. He had found drawings she had left behind when she trotted off at night to wherever she was living now. Her idea was clear: to change the building, to make it an advertisement. He gazed over at the picture of his bakery wrapped around a colorful trim, looking more like a gingerbread house than a structure. He had to admit, it was clever. Not exactly the most manly thing he would have thought to put on his bakery, but clever. At the moment, though, autumn was setting in, and soon the drying season would start for the carrying business. He did everything he could to take her mind off the fact that soon she would be furloughed from the Knapp's carrying business, that she would be unemployed. like he had been. Together they went through long walks through the whitetail woods, or went up a nearby farm to go apple picking, selecting the biggest fruit to take home to the shop. Some days they would just sit and watch the colorful trees bob on small breezes. As they walked through the farmer's fair, he had brought her knickknacks from stalls, done his best to win her prizes, done all that he thought a proper cultivan was supposed to do in such a setting. Her laughter when he had fallen over backwards as he tried to lift a hammer to ring the bell, or when the ball had bounced back and struck him on the nose in a dunk tank. That wonderful sound reassured him that she knew what he was doing, and appreciated how happy he was trying to make her. As they sat together, she wrapped formally in his forelegs, staring out into the fair as the lights flickered on. He had a powerful realization. It was then that he realized something about the game of this. The intangible secret that was filling her, making her worry. She had given a happy sigh and yawned, wiped her head against his chest as the music of the midway had floated over them. It was then he realized that this was like a carnival game. He may be playing it, but it was playing him right back. It was competition with him. As long as this existed, then these fleeting moments, these all too short hours together, this is all they would have. He did not like being able to walk to wherever she was living. He hated not being able to draw the fear and worry out of her. He hated the almost inescapable urge to sneak along after her, follow her after a goodnight kiss, risk shattering that trust that she had placed in him. He was starting to hate this again, hate it utterly. He wanted to see what her body was like when she was free from worry. He wanted to look into those rosy eyes when they were not filled with long, drawn-out plans. He wanted to see her liberated from her worry, only happy. Carrot began to blush slightly, even as he and the realtor went up the high streets of Ponyville, even as the gray and besticked realtor went on about interest rates and mortgages. Carrot felt himself being drawn into his happy thoughts, the thoughts of her warm and safe, happy to be near him. The amber color cold let out and let an image slip in his mind, one that he had been nursing again, just the slightest bit of traction in his conscious thoughts. It filled him as they went down the cobblestone streets, the weight of his saddlebags lifting through him. In his mind's eye he saw her in the bed, his bed, the very bed at the top of the stairs in the room above his shop. He saw her lying there, a soft look across her face, a happy look as he slept peacefully. He felt her along the length of his body as the night air washing over them through the open windows.
Ahem!
Gained the voice of the realtor, snapping Carrot out of the contemplation as that was sending a rather serene look across his features.
We're here!
Continued the gray stallion as he reached for the door of the loan office. Carrot looked up and tried to figure out where exactly the realtor had brought him. The building was short and half-timbered. It was a simple yet robust place. He gazed upon the sign painted in the window, trying to read it in the May-day sun. Hospital Loan and Trust, it read in a rather nondescript font. Below it read the name of the proprietor, owner, and loan officer. All the titles were rolled into one, all their ellipses leading into a single name that stood out boldly. It was a short, strong name, one that caught against Carrot's thoughts. At once, the name that lay there caught inside his memory, ignited something within him that he desperately knew he should remember. He looked at the name once more, and tried to think of where he had heard it. At once, he felt the hooves of the rearder upon him, shoving him to the ground, interrupting the chain of memories that was linking him back to the name. As he hit the ground, there was a rumble, and a wild horse whinny. He looked up to see something that had awakened all his remembrances. The massive stallion stood in the doorway, and on the ground there sat another stallion, this one holding his head. To Carrot's horror, blood began to drip from the stallion's ear. At once, all of the happy thoughts of his lady-love laying in the moonlight emptied out of him, dripped away as surely as the red droplets that were falling from the terrified stallion before him, popping against the cobblestones.
I'll sue you for that! That's assault! You try!
Began the stallion.
You try and we'll see what the law has to say about the 1,000 bits you just stole from me!
Answered the stallion in the doorway, his eyes wide and fierce. But, continued the smaller stallion, struggling to rise. I didn't!
You did what? You didn't think I found out? Think you're too smart for me, you bucket piece of trash? Ha! I've been ruined flying by smarter bucks than you!
Answered the huge stallion, With a toss, he threw all manners of paper over the bleeding, whimpering stallion that stood in the street.
I'm taking all the collateral deposits too!
Answered the huge, rippling stallion as a touch of foam gathered in the corner of his mouth.
You're liquidated! Try taking it to court, see how that works for you!
The stallion barely moved, yet his angry eyes still caught Carrot in their glare.
You buy 12.15?
The stallion hissed.
Yes, sir,
Carrot whispered.
Give me 5 minutes to clear up a bit,
said the stallion, beginning to shake and tremble as though he were literally trying to drop the anger of himself.
Yes, sir,
answered Carrot. Inside an instant, the stallion had turned back inside the loan office. Carrot's head went back up to the sign. The name stood out as it was made of luminescent magic, bolded as it flew through his memory. His thoughts flew back over months to the start of the summer that had now passed, back to the day he had seen this pony similarly arrayed, standing in front of the mill. Quarry. His loan officer was Quarry. Psst. As he sat in the reception room, Carrot watched the secretary readjust a few things, and then go back to work as though she barely noticed him. Carrot rummaged through the saddlebags and made sure all of the papers were there, and a little container too. Despite the realtor's assurances that he would be fine, Carrot could not help but notice that he had not bothered to stick around. A new wave of cursing went through the room beyond the door, and at once Carrot and the secretary looked up toward it. Carrot turned back first, looking down at his saddlebag. He looked up just in time to see the secretary staring up over his glasses. "Don't worry, sweetie," she said with surprising certainty. "What should I do?" asked Carrot, a touch of desperation. "If he gets mad." "Trying to go late," she answered. At once she had heard the stallion call him, and even as he stood, he felt his body already following the offered advice.
"Come and have a seat,"
spoke the stallion, the gray eyes already affixed to Carrot as he entered the room. Carrot was surprised by how sterile and how utterly unadorned the office was. No plants, no inspirational posters, no photos. Just the desk and the cabinets, the 2 chairs, and the stallion who regarded him faithfully.
Good afternoon,"
said Carrot. "I'm here because you're highly
Where in the world do I know you from?
interrupted Quarry, the huge stallion leaning across his own forelegs. Carrot regarded Carrot with a suspicious glare. I worked at Mr. Lester's mill," said Carrot, forcing himself not to tremble.
"Oh?"
replied the stallion as he leaned back.
"Should have recognized the name. Carrot Cake. You quit the mill, Cake?"
"Yes, well, no, sir, no. Mr. Lester knew. He knew that I'd be going when I found something that matched my mark. He does," stuttered Carrot.
"Yeah, Lester does that. Done that for a lot of Colts and Phillies. That's one of the things I like about Lester,"
spoke Quarry, without lifting his eyes from Carrot.
"He's a good stallion. They're good ponies."
Carrot was surprised at how much more relaxed and calmer Quarry became when he mentioned Ledger's name. His tone and volume dropped as though in reverence.
"Lester sees something in your Cake,"
spoke the fast stallion, his voice a low rumble, and his eyes still judgmental.
"I'll hear what you have to say."
It never became easy in that room. The feeling of menace that flowed off the stallion never dissipated. Yet as Carrot went through his practice lines, he thought about why he was there. How would getting this loan allow him to finish buying the equipment he needed? It would allow him to open up his shop, to walk in patrons rather than just ponies he was contracted to. Something of Carrot's simple joy filled his words. Even when he came to the hard part, the part about numbers, he just let the image of Cupcake fill his head. The thought of her with him in the kitchen, the idea that she wouldn't need to work a job to help him. Just be there with him. This image filled his mind even as he looked up to the large stallion who gazed upon him implacably. With her in his mind, the rest became that much easier, if not easy. When he spoke of her, he did not use her name. Instead, a different word came to mind. A word that he realized spoke more about them than just how they were working to grow his business. Partner, he called her. His partner. She was not an employee after all. He wanted to see her wanted him to see her as her lover, her friend, her partner. That last bet kept in his own head, as Corey did not seem to be the type to be swayed by romantic notions. Corey lifted his head as Carrot told him about how he had won a contract with the school district, how his clever partner had gone from market stall to market stall finding sellers who could sell breads with their products. And one day he had won 5 contracts in such a manner. Corey seemed depressed. Sort of. Maybe. That's all I have to say, really, Carrot said, dropping his head. At once he remembered something he had wanted to do. With that, Carrot opened a tin and placed it on Corey's desk. There in the mess kit stood a piece of carrot cake, a slice very much like the ones that had made up his mark. Corey stared at it for a second. With a wicked smile, he took it in half and looked at Carrot.
Cute!
He said as he looked at his mouth. The stallion chewed slowly and gave a little nod. With that, he slid a piece of paper in front of Carrot. As Carrot looked it over, he could barely read. Corey was walking around the bare room, chewing on the cake loudly, watching Carrot as he read. A sudden shock went up Carrot's back. He realized in terror that the stallion had one of his hooves on his shoulder. Trembles of disgust went up Carrot's spine, and a deep, wet smell of the stallion's breath drifted over him, tinged by the slight smell of carrot cake.
You know what the stupidest statement in all of equestrian history was, Cake?
Asked the stallion, his voice once more a rumble, his breath once more thick across Carrot's face.
No, sir,
Carrot said, giving a shudder.
It was this. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission,
said Corey, looking over Carrot's shoulder as he read the paper.
The son of a bitch who said it that smirked as he said it. Then asked for my forgiveness.
Carrot swallowed hard.
I'm told he still walks with a limp, Cake.
Carrot closed his eyes, tried to fight for breath.
Those are fine terms there, Cake. Good ones. Lester likes ya. Sees something in ya. That means something to me. I think you got some plans, and I'll back you. But Cake, you try to lie to me, try to steal from me, or if I think you've used me.
Corey looked down, saw the paper shaking, and knew he did not need to go on.
You got a name for this place, Cake?
Asked the stallion, removing himself from hovering over Carrot. Carrot felt himself breathe again, and as he had exhaled, he spilled the name across the desk.
Carrot Cake's Bakery Company, LLC, Incorporated.
He stated in a voice that betrayed how very much he understood Corey's meaning.
Damn well's a name, Cake,
replied Corey, sneering as he stared out the window small of the room. I'm thinking of tainting it, Ted said, staring up to Corey as he tossed the quill upon the desk and pointed to the small bottle of ink.
See that you do. Sign the fucking paper already!
As Carrot left the office, the secretary was surprised to see him smiling. Even more surprised when Carrot laid one of the other pieces of carrot cake on a napkin across her desk. As he thanked him, he left, his head held high and a great fat check in his saddlebags. Seems like something else I got a cult, said the secretary as he began nibbling on the little offering.
Meh,
answered Corey as he looked out across the reception room with no expression evident on his face. Outside, Carrot trotted happily toward the bank. Now he felt everything else would fall into place. Now Cupcake would leave the carrying job and not have to find another one. Now they could spend that time together in the bakery. Now that they were much closer, he believed, to winning the game of this. As the light of the autumn day fell through the golden leaves around him, Carrot was unaware of something very important. He could not know that the game of this had just been upset by this act. He could not know that he had just committed a bitter offense, and that a yellow card was now being held over all he wished and hoped